In 1964, a machinist in San Diego, California, came home from the aircraft plant on the worst night of the year in a cold rain, and his car would not start. It had sat out in the weather all day, and the engine turned but would not catch. A lot of men that night were pushing cars or waiting on a tow. He did not. He popped the hood, took a can out of his trunk, pulled the distributor cap, and sprayed the wet ignition down with it. The water beaded off and ran out, and the car fired on the first turn of the key. He was warm and home before his neighbor's tow truck ever arrived. That trick, drying out a soaked engine to make it start, is number 4 on this list. And the one thing that machinist understood about this famous can that almost nobody does, the thing that tells you when to reach for it and when to put it down, is number 1. He was not a rare man. In that town especially, half the fathers had worked at Convair or knew a man who had, and they knew where the stuff came from. It was invented right there in San Diego to keep the rust off a missile, and the men who made it smuggled cans home in their lunch pails before it ever hit a store shelf. They did not think of it as a lubricant, which is exactly the thing we have forgotten. They thought of it as the can that got water out and got things unstuck, and that is a very different thing. We traded that understanding away. We were handed a blue and yellow can and a vague idea that it fixes everything, so we spray it on the 10 things it is worst at and miss the 50 it is best at. That knowledge did not die because it stopped working. The formula in the can is the same one from 1953. It died because nobody teaches what the stuff actually is. Number 17 frees a rusted bolt that has snapped wrenches and defeated grown men, the job the stuff was born to do. Number 4 is the one from the top of this story, drying a drowned engine so it starts in the rain. And number 1 is the plainest and most valuable thing on this whole list. The single fact that separates a man who understands this can from a man who just sprays and hopes. Once you know it, every other trick makes sense. These 20 tricks were never about a can. They were the mark of a man who understood one tool so completely he knew both what it could do and, just as important, what it could not. Not a miracle, a solvent. Every trick on this list, that San Diego man had in his own 2 hands. If that kind of understanding is worth remembering, subscribe and stay to the end, because the last one is the one that matters most. Let us count down the 20 lost WD-40 tricks every father knew in the 1960s that you have never even heard of. Number 20, drying out a flooded car lock. A car door lock jams after a rain or a wash. The key will not turn, and a man stands in the cold fighting it. This is water in the lock, and driving water out is the one thing this can was invented to do. You put the little red straw on the nozzle, aim it right into the keyhole, and give it a short shot. The spray displaces the moisture that swelled the works, and the key turns. Just a short shot. Too much attracts grit over time. For the man locked out of his own car in a parking lot, this can in the glove box was 30 seconds between him and a locksmith. It is called water displacement for a reason, and the lock is exactly the job the name is describing. Not a lock you replace, water you drive out. Number 19, freeing a stuck zipper. A zipper on a jacket or a bag seizes, corroded or gummed shut, and a man yanks it until it breaks off in his hands. A tiny bit of this stuff frees a stuck zipper in seconds. You spray a little onto a rag, not the fabric, and rub it onto the teeth, then work the pull gently. The solvent cuts the gum and corrosion, and the zipper slides free. Onto the rag, never onto the cloth, or you will stain the garment. For the man with a broken zipper on his only good coat, A rag and a spray saved a trip to the tailor. Not a zipper you replace. Grime you dissolve off the teeth. Number 18, wiping road tar and bug guts off a car. A man drives home from the coast. The front of his car caked with tar and dead bugs, no wash takes off, and he scrubs until he fears for the paint. This stuff cuts tar and bug residue fast. You spray it on a rag and wipe the mess away, and it lifts the tar and guts without the scrubbing that scratches the finish. Then wash and wax that spot, because you cut through the wax, lifting the tar. Do not leave it sitting on the paint. Wipe it and wash it. For the man proud of his car, this cleaned off a summer of highway without a scratch. Not a finish you scrub raw. Tar you dissolve and wipe. Number 17, breaking loose a rusted bolt. A bolt is rusted solid. Every wrench rounds it or bends, and a man is one hard pull from snapping it off and turning a small job into a nightmare. This is the job the stuff was born for, penetrating rust and freeing seized metal. You soak the bolt and threads and wait, giving it real time to creep down into the rust, 10 minutes, longer if you can. Then tap it with a hammer to shock the rust and try the wrench. Give it time and tap it. Do not just spray and yank. For the man with a project stopped dead by one frozen bolt, patience and this can in his hands beat brute force and a broken stud. It was made to free stuck parts on a missile, and a rusted bolt is the same fight. Not a bolt you snap, rust you creep into and free. Number 16, pulling a stuck ring off a finger. A ring swells tight on a finger and will not come off. The panic makes it worse, and a man thinks about the emergency room. A little of this slick stuff frees a stuck ring gently. You spray a bit onto the finger, work it around and under the ring, and twist the ring off slowly as it slides on the film. Wash your hands well after, because this is not made for skin, it is a stopgap. For the man whose knuckle had swollen around a wedding band, this got it off without a cut ring or a doctor. Not a ring you cut off, a film that lets it slide. Number 15, displacing water from wet tools and metal. A man's tools get caught in the rain or come out of a flooded basement, and by morning they are spotted with rust. Getting water off metal is the entire original purpose of this can. You spray the wet tools down and wipe them, the water is displaced, and a thin film is left behind that holds the rust off. This is not long-term protection, so oil them properly when you can, but it stops the flash rust tonight. For the man whose toolbox took on water, a good spray down that night saved $100 of tools by morning. It was designed to keep water off a rocket, and your wrench is an easier job. Not tools you lose to rust. Water you chase off tonight.
Before we go on, I made something special for you. A guide for men like us who still believe a man should be able to fix his own home. It's the forgotten handyman secrets, the old-fashioned repair tricks our grandfathers used to fix anything around the house and keep it running for life. But these skills are disappearing fast, and once they're gone for good. Don't pay a repairman ever again. Scan the QR code on screen or click the link below. Go ahead, I'll wait right here.
Number 14, loosening a rusted, stuck nut on a garden hose or fitting. The nut on a garden hose corrodes onto its threads and will not budge, and a man rounds it off with pliers. The same penetrating action that frees a bolt frees a corroded fitting. You spray the joint, let it soak in, and the nut turns where it would not before. Let it work before you force it. For the man who could not swap a hose or a sprinkler head all summer, a spray and a few minutes ended the fight. Not a fitting you destroy, corrosion you penetrate. Stop the count for a moment, because here is the thing about this can that almost nobody understands, and it is the reason half of what people spray it on is the wrong job. The name is the whole truth. Water displacement, 40th formula, the 40th attempt to make a spray that would keep water and rust off the skin of an Atlas missile right here in San Diego in 1953. Read that again. It was built to displace water and prevent rust, a solvent and a penetrant first, and only a very light lubricant second. And that one fact changes everything, because it means the two things people reach for at most, oiling a squeaky door hinge and lubing a bike chain, are the two things it is worst at. It stops the squeak for a day, then the light solvent evaporates and leaves the hinge dry and attracting dust. On a bike chain, it actually strips away the real lubricant and leaves the chain dry. The old-timers knew this. They used it to displace water, to clean, to penetrate, and to free stuck things. And then, for anything that had to keep moving and stay slick, they reached for a real lubricant, a proper grease or oil. The genius was never spraying it on everything. The genius was knowing exactly what it was. Number 13, cleaning crayon, scuffs, and gum off almost anything. A child colors the wall, a scuff blackens the floor, gum sticks under a table, and cleaners do nothing. As a solvent, this stuff dissolves what water-based cleaners cannot. You spray a little on a rag and wipe the crayon off the wall, the scuff off the tile, the gum off the wood, and it lifts what would not come. Test a hidden spot first, because the solvent can affect some finishes and some plastics. For the mother at her wit's end, with crayon on the good wallpaper, a rag and this can undid it in a minute. Not a mess you scrub, a residue you dissolve. Number 12, protecting shovels and garden tools from rust. A man's shovel and hoe live in a damp shed and come out each spring pitted with rust, harder to use and dying early. A wipe of this stuff leaves a film that holds off the damp. At the end of the season, you clean the tools, spray a light coat over the metal, and wipe it. The film keeps the rust from taking hold over the wet winter. Reapply it, because it is a light film, not a permanent coat. For the man who could not afford new tools every few years, this fall ritual doubled their life. It kept rust off a missile, and it will keep it off a spade. Not tools that rust away. A film that holds the damp off. Number 11, silencing a squeak the honest way, then fixing it right. A hinge or a spring squeaks. A man sprays it, the squeak stops, and he thinks the job is done, and in a week it is squeaking again, and grimy besides. This is the trap, and the old-timer knew the way through it. You use the spray to do what it is good at, cleaning the old gummed grime out of the joint and penetrating it so it frees up and goes quiet. But then, because the light film will not last, you follow with a real lubricant, a drop of proper oil or a dab of grease, on anything that has to keep moving. Clean and free it with the can, then lubricate it with grease. For the man who was tired of spraying the same hinge every month, this two-step fix ended the squeak for years, not days. Not a squeak you spray forever. A joint you clean, then grease. Number 10, keeping snow and mud from sticking. Snowpacks and freezes on a shovel, and wet mud cakes onto a tool until it is twice the weight, and the work doubles. A coat of this stuff makes a slick surface that snow and mud slide off. You wipe a light coat on the shovel blade, the mower deck, the wheel well, and the wet stuff slides off instead of sticking and freezing. Reapply as it wears and keep it off any surface you walk on, because slick is the point. For the man shoveling a long driveway, a coated shovel cut the work in half. Not a blade that clogs. A surface the snow slides off. Here is the part of his story we have skipped. The San Diego man did not learn the limits of the can gently. He learned them on his own son's bicycle in about 1958, right after the stuff first hit the stores. The boy's chain was squeaking, and the father, proud of the new miracle spray from the plant, soaked the whole chain in it. The squeak vanished, and the boy rode off happy. 2 weeks later, the chain was bone dry, rusting and grinding, worse than before, because the spray had stripped what little oil was left and protected nothing. An older machinist at the plant, a man who had helped make the stuff, set him straight without any lecture. He held up the can and pointed at the name on it. "It says water displacement, not lubricant," he said. "It gets the water out and gets things loose. For everything else, you still need grease." The father never forgot it, and it changed how his hands used that can for the rest of his life. He used the can for exactly what it was for the next 40 years, and greased what needed grease. And he taught his son the difference the day the boy was old enough to hold a wrench. And that difference, the plainest and most important thing about this whole famous can, is number 1. Number 9. Removing sticky label and price tag residue. A man peels a sticker off a new tool, and it leaves that maddening gummy residue that fingers only make worse. The solvent melts adhesive gum instantly. You spray a little on the gum, let it sit a few seconds, and wipe, and the sticky residue rolls right off. Wipe the surface clean after, so it is not left slick. For the man who hated that gummy patch on everything new, this erased it in seconds. Not a residue you pick at, adhesive you dissolve. Number 8. Displacing moisture from a wet distributor and plug wires. Damp weather, and a car misfires or will not start because moisture has crept into the ignition, and a man is baffled by an engine that ran fine yesterday. Driving water out of the ignition is a classic use, straight from the name. You spray a light mist over the distributor cap, the coil, and the plug wire boots. The water is displaced, and the spark jumps clean again. On older cars especially, this is the difference between a start and a no start in the wet. For the man in the rain with a dead engine, this can was the whole fix. It kept moisture off a missile's parts, and your ignition is the same problem. Not an engine that drowns. Moisture, you drive off the spark. Number 7. Cleaning and protecting battery terminals. Corrosion builds up white and crusty on a car battery's terminals, the car cranks slow or not at all, and a man thinks he needs a battery. Often it is just the corroded connection. You clean the terminals first, then, with the connections tight, a light spray keeps new moisture and corrosion from building back up on the metal. Clean the corrosion off first. The spray is for keeping it away after. For the man whose car cranked slower every winter, cleaning and protecting the terminals bought his battery years. Not a battery you replace, a connection you clean and protect. Number 6. Freeing a stuck slide, runner, or track. A sticking window, a stubborn drawer runner, a seized tool slide, all of them bind and fight, and a man forces them and breaks something. This stuff cleans and frees a binding metal track. You spray the metal track or runner, work it back and forth to clean out the old gummed grime, and it slides free. On metal runners, it is good. On a wooden drawer, a rub of wax or soap is better and cleaner. For the man with a window painted and stuck for years, cleaning the track freed it in minutes. Not a slide you force. Grime you clean out of the track. Number 5. Winterizing and moisture-proofing outdoor gear. A padlock on a shed or a gate freezes solid in winter. Garden equipment corrodes over the wet months, and a man fights frozen, rusted metal every spring. Keeping water out is the core of what this can does. You shoot a little into outdoor padlocks before winter to keep them from freezing, and wipe a film over exposed metal on outdoor gear to hold off the wet. Reapply through the season because the film is light. For the man who could never get his shed lock open in January, a shot of this in the fall ended it. It was built to protect metal from the weather, and your padlock is the same job, not a lock that freezes. Water you keep out ahead of time. Number 4, starting a rain-soaked engine. This is the fix from the top of our story, the one that got the machinist home in the cold rain. A car sits in the weather, water works into the ignition, and the engine turns but will not catch, and a man is stranded by nothing but moisture. Because the whole purpose of the can is displacing water, it dries out a soaked ignition so the spark can jump. You pull the distributor cap, spray a light mist over the inside of the cap, the points and the wires, put it back together, and try the key. The water is chased off the electrical parts, and the engine fires. For the family stranded in a parking lot in the rain, this can in the trunk was the difference between driving home and waiting for a tow. Not an engine you flood, water you drive off the spark. Number 3, quieting and freeing anything seized by rust or moisture. The single broadest use the old-timers had, the thing they reached for first on any stuck, seized, rusted, or moisture-jammed piece of metal in the house or the shop. A hinge frozen with rust, a latch seized shut, a tool locked up, a mechanism gummed and stuck. All of them yield to the same approach. You spray it, you give it time to penetrate and displace the water and cut the grime. You work the part gently, and it comes free. This is the can doing exactly the 3 things it was built to do: penetrate, displace water, and clean all at once. For the man facing any stuck, rusted, or damp-jammed thing, this was the first and often the only tool he needed. Not a part you force or replace. Rust and water you free it from. Number 2, knowing to follow it with grease. The most valuable habit the old-timers had was not a use of the can at all. It was what they did after. They understood that this can cleans, penetrates, displaces water, and frees stuck things, and then, on anything that has to keep moving, they followed it with a real lubricant. You free the seized hinge with the spray, then you put a drop of proper oil on the pin. You clean the gummed lock, then you use dry graphite made for locks. You unstick the mechanism, then you grease the parts that ride against each other. The can gets it clean and free and dry. The grease keeps it moving. Do both, and the fix lasts for years instead of a week. For the man who wanted to fix a thing once, with his own hands, this 2-step was the whole secret the trick videos never mention. Not a can that does everything, a can that does its half, and grease that does the rest. Number 1, understanding what the can actually is. And it is the thing this whole list has been circling since the first minute. Before any single trick on this list, the San Diego man understood one fact that almost nobody does, and every good use flows from it. This is not a lubricant. It never was. It is a water displacer, a solvent, and a penetrant, invented in 1953 to keep water and rust off a missile, and it is only a very light lubricant as an afterthought. The moment you understand that, the whole can make sense. You reach for it to get water out, to clean grime off, to penetrate rust, and to free stuck things, because those are the things it was built to do and does better than almost anything. And you do not reach for it to lubricate a bike chain or oil a hinge for good or protect a thing long-term, because those are the jobs it is worst at, and for those you use grease and oil made for the purpose. You even keep it off rubber seals and off some plastics and finishes because the solvent can degrade them. He did not learn that from the label. He learned it in 1958 from an old machinist who held up the can, pointed at the name, and said, "It says water displacement, not lubricant. It gets the water out and gets things loose. For everything else, you still need grease." Here is the part worth sitting with, and it is the whole point of this list. The internet is full of tricks for this can, and half of them are wrong because half of them treat it as a lubricant, which it is not. The old-timer's secret was never a longer list of uses. It was understanding the one true thing the name has been telling us for 70 years. Water displacement. Read the name, believe the name, and you will never misuse the can again. Not the most clever trick on this list, the plainest, and the one that makes every other trick on here finally make sense. None of it was ever a miracle. That was the point, and it is the thing the myth around this can has buried. A man who understood one honest tool all the way down owed nothing to a shelf of specialty sprays. He drove the water out of the lock and the ignition. He penetrated the rust and freed the bolt. He cleaned the grime and protected the metal, and then, for anything that had to keep moving, he reached for grease because he knew the difference. That knowledge was never taken from us. It is printed right on the can, 2 words, water displacement, and it has been there since 1953. We just stopped reading it and let the myth of the miracle spray replace the plain truth of the solvent. We did not lose the can. It is on a shelf in every garage in the country, the same formula it always was. What we lost was the understanding, and an old machinist in San Diego said it best, holding the can up to the light. It says water displacement, not lubricant. It gets the water out and gets things loose. For everything else, you still need grease.